Hey everyone, thanks for jumping on here with us. It's going to be an exciting weekend service with you guys. I'm going to make it a bonus. If you reach out to me, like anytime that you know this, and we're gonna go ahead and say code word, how about snowbird? All right, code word snowbird. All right, if you reach out to me, I'm gonna put your names on a hat, at least one of you, I'll get you a free cup of coffee or a free cup of whatever from wherever you want. All right, so just you can do that. But it's super good to have you guys on here with me. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have a wonderful service this weekend. I can't wait to jump in there with you and really focus on what God has for us. I've been so enjoying walking through the life and the ministry of who Jesus is and how that applies to us. We've been doing that with a lot of our series ever since last fall, and so it's been great to do that with you. If we haven't had a chance to meet before, my name is Joe. I'm one of the pastors here at Grace, and I get the pleasure of doing a few things around here. One, if you've ever been to our Montrose location there on Cleveland-Massillon Road, I'm your host pastor there, and so it's been fun to continue to cultivate that community as a part of our Bath campus and see that continue to grow and see great ministry happen. And then I also oversee what we call our Give It Away ministries. And so a lot of our work around the world and our partnerships in different countries, the missions efforts we do there, helping missionaries get kind of deployed and moved to different countries. A lot of that I get to help oversee. And then also our local partnerships here in the community. So everything with nonprofit organizations to local schools and communities, I get to do that too. So if you're ever interested in that kind of stuff, I'd be one of the guys helping you make those steps happen or figuring out how you can get involved in those things. Now this season has also been fantastic because we're right in the middle of game day, and game day is one of our most favorite ways to continue to engage and be involved in the community. It's a wonderful basketball and cheerleading program for a lot of kids to come in and just have a lot of fun. Not only do they get to learn basketball or cheerleading and get to work on those skills a little bit, but they also get some discipleship opportunities with their leaders. And so we're right in the thick of that. It's so fun. I get to coach one of the teams, so shout out to the Running Mermaids out there, like super fun. I get to coach the kindergarten, first grade girls on that team, and it's a lot of fun. And so this is my first year coaching. I've never coached basketball before. I've never coached anything like this before, and it has been a blast. And so maybe next year that can be on your radar and you can jump into some of those scenarios too. Game day, one of our biggest things in the community. It takes hundreds of volunteers to step in and do everything from food and making sure the building is ready to go, to coaching and to being behind the scene, all kinds of stuff. So if that's something that interests you, no matter what age it is, because it's a really multi-generational thing, it's awesome. You should jump into that. So we have a lot of those things coming, and one of the things that's really exciting about our game day program and even a lot of our sports ministry stuff is if you've been at or near or driven by the Gent Road building, if you're in the area, you see there's a lot of stuff happening on our property. There's this big brick thing that's going up, and that's a huge part of what we're doing to continue to be available to serve and reach the community. And so there's some updates for that. There's going to be some ways to get involved with all of that as we continue again to be connected with our community. And you're not going to want to miss this next series as well, coming up at the beginning of March. And so make sure that in particular you have those ones marked off on your calendars. I know you're probably watching and connecting with most of our services, but make sure that you have those carved out, because not only will it be great worship and great Bible teaching, but it's also a big part of who we are as a church as we continue to move forward. So keep those things locked in. So again, it's going to be a fun weekend, and we're going to jump in there. We're going to lock in. I want you to try to put all those distractions away for a second. You know, if you're not watching on your phone, maybe set your phone down or put it on silent mode or something, and let's dial in. How does Jesus want to work in your life this week? How is he connecting with you? And maybe he's beckoning you to understand him more and to understand how he wants to interact with your life more. Or maybe it's a combination He wants to work in your life, but by connecting you with other people. And so whether that's something online or something in person, maybe there's a way that he can make that step happen in your life. Or maybe it's time for you to take another step forward and say, you know what, I want to be a part of what Jesus is doing. And you want to learn how to do that in your natural circles of life. Or maybe you want to involve yourself with something that's in our community. Or maybe you even want to just jump into the ministries here at the church or something around the world, whatever it might be. But those are the types of things. That's certainly not everything, but those are the types of things that God might be beckoning you to involve yourself, because as we continue to grow closer and closer to Him, He continues to renew us and change us and transform us into who we were created to be. So super fun. All that said, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's have a great weekend service together. Let's worship well. Let's lock in and see what God has for us. I'm glad that we could do this together. All right, let's jump in. We'll see you soon. I love the just people talking and the buzz of that. I absolutely love that. And if you're watching from home, online, wherever you happen to be, thanks for joining us. We're going to have a great time together this weekend. We'll be in our second weekend of the Sacrilege series. Excited to dive into that with you. But also, I just got to let you know, here at Grace, there's always lots of great things happening in and out. Honestly, every day, every age, all kinds of stuff. Like, you're not going to want to miss out on those opportunities. And so we at Grace, we want to help each other continue to have a vibrant relationship with God. And so whether you're maintaining that and you're kind of pursuing Him full throttle, or whether you're exploring that and wondering what that is, we want to be a place where you can do those things and continue to see the wonder of who God is, So if we haven't met before, my name's Joe. I'm one of the pastors here at Grace, and I just kind of want to help you get settled into some things before we kind of get rolling. So if you've never downloaded our app, there's lots of things there you can access right through your mobile device, lots of ways to get connected, resources to grow closer to God, ways to find kind of like your people, people to pray with, talk with, be encouraged by, and to encourage and walk this faith journey together, and also ways to serve, to help people grow in their faith, to reach out into the community, to meet needs and all those kind of things, and even beyond. You'll see that stuff there. And then there's also a connection card if you ever need to reach out to the leadership, or a way to be a part of the giving community as well, or you can even text the number on the screen for that too. So if you're brand new to Grace, that's not the point. We'd love for you to know and trust us and be a part of the family here. But there's so many great things where we can grow together. I need this place, and I think many of us do as well. Glad God has given it to us. Now, one of the ways in which God kind of allows us to be a part of different things is actually through what is kind of known as global missions. And so some of you are like, why are we talking about that? Some of you have no idea what that is. Some of you checked out. It's fine. Global missions is a wonderful way for us to continue to see how God wants to work, not only here at our address or at our house, but all around the world. And we've been able to have, over the years, just lots of great experiences with all different ages in a lot of different places around the world. I could vision cast that for you. I could talk about that till I'm blue in the face. But I want you to hear some stories, some folks that have done this recently and have really found a home out and away and abroad. So check out some of these stories.
I've been to Mazatlan, Mexico for the past 6 years, working with an organization called Shoulder to Shoulder. Shoulder to Shoulder is just that. It's coming alongside local churches in the Mazatlan and surrounding areas. They really focus in on listening to the churches and like, what do they need to reach their community? So sometimes that can look like they need a construction project. Hey, we have all these young couples that we just need mentorship to. So it's just really what the church needs is the goal of the team.
I got to go to Los Angeles over this past summer, and we went and hung out with the urban centers out there in LA. Initially, we were the Haiti team. Leading up, we knew that there were gonna be some rough patches. The opportunity to partner with this urban center in LA kind of just like it fell into our lap. Obviously, got closest door for a reason, but we have a whole nother opportunity to still do the Lord's work somewhere else. And so the guy who kind of led the base, his name's Tim Lansing. Over the course of the days we were there, he walked our team through kind of some curriculum to help train teams, but also help those teams give them opportunities to go out in the area and put into practice what they had been learning through these trainings and like give back to the community.
I've been going to the Philadelphia missions trip for about 5 years now. It's really cool. We get to partner with this ministry called Urban Hope, and it's just an awesome outreach. One of the things that I love about going to Philly is the kids' missions. And it's really awesome because you get to connect with these kids they all come from different backgrounds. Another thing that I really love is our homeless ministry. So we get to go out, you see drug use, you see people who are literally living in tents, but through it all, you see God, and it's awesome. You get to minister to these people and help their physical needs, but also just their spiritual needs, and it's amazing. Everyone has different skill sets and has different talents and gifts, and when you have that many people with all these different skill sets, we can just reach so many more people than just what Andy or the people at Urban Hope can reach on their own.
It speaks to Grace's values as like there are no spare parts. So I've seen people that are like, well, I can't go because I can't do a construction project. It doesn't matter, like God will use you, and I've seen that. You know, you're seeing families and whole entire communities and people being transformed and impacted like for the gospel.
I think making yourself uncomfortable is such a key part of like growing as a believer. It's something that has like really pushed me into serving and pushed me into ministry. Community is such a big thing, and not only are you serving the people around you, but you're serving your team too. And I think it's so cool to see how your relationships, just spending 1 week together, grow so much with God and when you're in that uncomfortable spot.
So I'd encourage anyone who's thinking about doing it and is hesitant, don't be comfortable. Take a leap of faith, trust God that He's got you, and that this is going to be one of the best, most pivotal, influential weeks of your entire life.
I love what Nate just said there, and I love this give it away concept. That's the whole idea behind this. Our motto here at Grace Church is know it, live it, give it away. And so when it comes to things like global missions, we want to give what Jesus has given us, his story, his life, his message to as many people as we possibly can. And so we have those trips, we have those opportunities for all ages. Check those things out. There are adult trips that are being formed. There's things for fifth graders, middle school, high school, young adults, you name it, all in all different skill sets. Maybe this is your year. Maybe next year's your year. That's fine, but let's start prepping for that, praying about that, and we will get you on a field somewhere where not only are you able to help, but God does something incredible in you as you devote that week and beyond to what God is doing. So check those things out, app, website, etc., and it's going to be awesome. We'll walk you right through that. Why don't we go ahead and stand up, and we'll get our service started here with some music.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's good to see you all. My name's Josiah. We're going to sing some songs about Jesus. So let's put our hands together like this, yeah? And closer, you are closer. We can feel you moving everything. Yeah. Hey. In presence, in this moment, together we believe that here and now, your kingdom lives. Here and now, in our midst. Here and now, your kingdom lives. Oh, here and now, here and now. Oh, here we go. Focus, give us focus. So all of our attention is on you. Hey. In present, in this moment, we stand upon your truth. We sing it here and now. Our kingdom lives here and now. In our midst, here and now. Your kingdom lives here and now. Here and now. not divide us. The voices of this world will not define us. For we believe your kingdom lives. You believe it? Come on. So hear it now. Your kingdom lives. Hear it now. In our midst. Hear it now. Your kingdom lives. Everybody, it's good to see you all. My name is Josiah, and my keyboard is falling off the stands. Man, I love the truth of that last song. Jesus, when Jesus came to earth, he had a central message. He was saying over and over again. He would go from person to person, from town to town, and he'd say, listen, whatever you're doing, whatever you're into, whatever you're giving your life to right now, you need to turn around. Because the kingdom of heaven is here. God has come. Yeah, you can clap for that. God has come from heaven to earth to get a hold of you. And here's the deal. Listen, I know there's a lot of us in this room, and I know that there are many people who you want God. You want the peace. You hear what we're talking about week after week, and you're like, man, that's something I want, or I see this in my friend, and I want that. But you don't feel the kingdom of heaven in your own life. I mean, you don't feel like whatever's happening in that guy's life or that girl's life is happening in your own heart. And you wrestle with an insecurity that maybe I'm not the kind of person that God's interested in. Maybe I'm not the kind of person that God wants. And because you don't feel certain things, or you don't know certain things, or you have this sin struggle that's not going away, or you have this history, whatever it is. I need you to understand something. The message of Jesus Christ, Jesus said, if a shepherd had 100 sheep and he lost one, wouldn't he leave the 99 who get it, who know it, who understand everything that's going on, and chase after the one that got away? Jesus Christ came to the earth for lost sheep. Jesus Christ came to the earth for the people who feel the furthest out. And just by the very fact that you feel like you're not the kind of person that God is interested, that makes you exactly the kind of person that God is interested in. Jesus wants you. And so listen, we're going to sing and we're going to get into it and we're going to learn and all this kind of stuff. And if you feel like you're on the outside, just know you're not excluded. The kingdom of heaven is open to you. Jesus is trying to get a hold of you. And so be yourself. Just be here, be present. God knows how to speak to you, and you don't have to be like the next guy to be close to him. Jesus Christ came for lost sheep. I love this next song so much. It's about us longing for God. It's about how, your desire for this thing, that thing, the other thing. It ultimately is a desire for God, but more so what I love about this song is about God coming to you. That God saw you, he sought you out, and that Jesus Christ is the thing that you've always been looking for. All right, let's sing this together.
It's always been you.
walls stand around me. All this time my guardian was you. You are the light that shines and never turns. And there in the past will be there tomorrow. My life, your love, your rain, and the love. It's always been you. It's always been you. It's always been you. It's always been you. Jesus wants you. Would you pray with me? Jesus, God, would you speak to our hearts tonight? Jesus, would you speak to our hearts right now? Would you get a hold of us in a new way? Would you guide us closer to you? God, I pray especially to the people who feel that they're far. Would you show them, God, they might be far, but you're chasing after them. God, and there is no boundary, there is no wall that is too far. You're trying to get a hold, and you're here. You're chasing them down. God, open our hearts. Let us learn from you. Let's turn around from whatever we got going on. And let's follow you. In your name, Jesus. Amen. You guys can have a seat.
Well, hello, everyone. It is so good to be with you. Again, if you're just walking in or you're just logging on, my name is Joe, one of the pastors here. Thanks for being with us. And over at Montrose, good to see you guys. Glad to be here, but miss you as well. If you don't know, most Sunday mornings I'm over at Montrose over there. And so that's one of the reasons I always warmly greet them. They're my people. And so love doing that. Bath Campus has 2 locations, here at Gent and over there at Montrose. And we love sharing all those ministries the same. We've been just starting a series called Sacrilege. And that's a word that, I just like the word. I don't know, I'm just being honest. It's one of those ones, you ever hear a word, it just sounds right to you, but every time I hear it in my head, I want to say it with an accent. It's like sacrilege. I don't know why, but that's how I hear it every time in my head, and I have to make a conscious effort to say it like a normal person when I say it out loud. So that's the series that we're in, is sacrilege. And really what we're talking about is this idea of how on earth is it okay to do those things, and kind of calling people out on that. So for instance, Super Bowl, it's happening, right? Don't think, just answer, who do you want to win? Cincinnati. And doesn't that feel sacrilegious? If you said Cincinnati, you're like, why am I okay with that? If you're a Browns fan, you're like, the rest of the year, you're like, those Bengals, and all of a sudden we're like, win it all, who are we? That's so sacrilegious, right? Other examples might be if you put the toilet paper back on the thing and you let it roll out from underneath, what kind of person are you, right? That is so sacrilegious. Or the end all, beat all. Pineapple on pizza, are you serious? Are you serious? Every percentage of my body that is Italian is no, you cannot do that. You cannot marry those two things together. I love pineapple. I love me some pizza. You do not put those things together. And if you disagree, you're wrong. Okay, so, Last week, Pastor Jeff walked us through this passage where Jesus actually flipped tables, right? Something was going on so intense that got him under his skin so much that he purposefully flipped tables. People were getting in the way of people's pursuit of God, and Jesus was clearing the way by flipping those tables. If you know of that passage or you're curious what that's like and you weren't here last weekend, catch up on that, right? Podcast, app, website, like go back, listen to that. You're like, I don't have time. Have you ever heard of double speed? It's a wonderful, glorious thing when you're trying to catch up. I love it. You talk like this a little bit, but it's okay. You catch up to it in about 30 seconds and you're at least able to download a little bit of that conversation, but it was so good, so helpful. Check that out. Today we're gonna get into a different concept, right? Because the whole idea really of what we're trying to unpack with sacrilege is that it's when religion gets in the way of God, right? And so if you're in earshot of this, if you're in the room, if you're watching online, like something in you says, I want to be closer to God. If you know him, you want to be closer. If you don't know him, you're like, what would it be like to know him? How can I know God? But throughout history, kind of over and over again, sometimes people make things messy, and all of a sudden, the stuff that was meant to help us see God gets in the way and actually separates us a little bit from the heart of God. And that is sacrilege, right? Like, what are these things? And so some religious leaders, they were doing that last week when Jeff talked about flipping the tables at the temple. And then this weekend, we're going to talk about this idea of the Sabbath, another instance where Jesus was, in terms of the religious leaders, he was being sacrilegious. And so if you have a Bible with you, I want to encourage you to open up to Mark chapter 2. We've been kind of walking through the beginning stages of Jesus' ministry now for months, actually, not just in this series. But as we kind of look at what were the things that Jesus was doing, what was he saying, what were the fights that he was willing to pick, that he elevated to say, this is a place of clarity that I want to make sure that we understand. So we're going to kind of walk over this story that is Mark 2, starting in verse 23. It goes through 28, and we're not going to get into it tonight, but the concept of him addressing the Sabbath even continues into chapter 3. So maybe later this week you can dive into more of that. But let's go ahead and dive in. So Jesus, one Sabbath day, Jesus was walking through some grain fields, and his disciples began breaking off heads of grain to eat. But the Pharisees, or the teachers of the law, said to Jesus, look, why are they breaking the law by harvesting grain on the Sabbath? Let's pause for a second. The Sabbath was this day of rest, and we'll unpack that here a little bit more. But the idea was that you weren't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. No work, no effort, no nothing, right? So even in the case of the eyes of the Pharisees, picking a grain head, right, was like, whoa, 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 why are you working? And that's what they're questioning Jesus for. And specifically, Jesus, why are you letting the people that follow you, you say you're about God, why are you letting them do this thing that God said you're not allowed to do? That's the heartbeat of what's happening here. But Jesus answers in 27, 28, he says, the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord, and even over the Sabbath. What he's saying is this whole concept of the Sabbath is supposed to be something that benefits people. It's not meant to be something that is now in front of people, just another hoop to jump through to please God. And oh, by the way, I'm not just guessing at that. Oh, by the way, I'm not just saying that's my opinion. Jesus is also saying, I'm the Lord over the Sabbath. I literally know that's what this is about. Okay, I was there when this was initiated. This was a part of our intention as God. This is what the Sabbath is for. So what are we going to unpack? I want to show you a couple of things because we're going to find ourselves in this story in a few different ways. First of all, I want to just kind of clarify that God created this, right? This was something very intentional, very on purpose by God, that the Sabbath is something that he had in mind and has intended for people. So what was he thinking? when he instituted that. The second thing is religion messed it up, right? Now, not all religious activity is obviously bad, but sometimes, as I mentioned before, when people start to kind of mix themselves into all this stuff, they add in these layers, they add in these hoops, and all of a sudden, we're focused so much on those hoops that we're missing the point, right? We're gonna see kind of how that plays out. And then we're gonna see how Jesus calls us back to its roots. What is this really about? And specifically showing us again, this is really important. Okay, this idea of Sabbath is very important. It's not something we should just gloss over. It's not something that we should just kind of put to the side and say, oh, that's an old rule. Now, here's the thing. In the Jewish culture then, and even today, the Sabbath was everywhere. Now, let's talk about that Jewish culture historically for a second. Everyone knew what the Sabbath was. This wasn't like, hey, what are you talking about? What was that S word? Like, I didn't hear the thing. What are you referring to? Like, this was the thing. Like, and so Sabbath in ancient Jewish culture, it started at sundown on Friday and it went all the way through sundown on Saturday, which is kind of ironic if you think about it, because we think about like, oh, we go to church on the Sabbath. If you attend Grace Church in the winter, we don't offer services on the Sabbath, okay? Like, none of them happen before it gets dark on Saturday, which is kind of ironic, but that's where we are, right? But that's kind of how we think. And that's how it was in Jewish culture. Everyone did Sabbath and you were in trouble if you didn't, which is why the Pharisees were asking that question of Jesus. Okay, now, fast forward. A lot of the things that we're used to about the weekends have its roots all the way back to the Sabbath. The fact that we even have a weekend, like slow down, enjoy the weekend, is like actually partially connected to the ideas of the Sabbath. The fact that so many businesses used to all be closed on Sunday, the whole concept of that was Sabbath. Chick-fil-A. Okay, like they're locked into that idea. They want to give their employees rest. That whole concept, locking back into the intentionality of what the Sabbath is. If you have any type of family tradition where like the family gets together, whether it be on Saturday or Sunday, we get together and have dinner, that idea, that natural inclination is rooted back to the Sabbath. There's tons of things in our culture that find its beginnings there, whether we realize it or not. And it's that understanding, but even more, that these Jewish leaders and Jesus and his disciples would have been living in and trying to understand how do we navigate this now that we're kind of looking at Jesus and he's helping us see something a little bit better. Now, as I was kind of studying all this, I wanted to kind of look back to, so what is it that God was trying to institute? And I stumbled across these two Hebrew words, right? So Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures were all written in Hebrew, and these two words really brought a depth of meaning that I didn't expect, because I just thought Sabbath meant, you know, the churchy day that you don't do anything. Like, that's kind of what I thought it was. But as I looked at these two words, I started to realize that God might have intended something a little bit deeper and richer than maybe we fully understand. So the first one is Shabbat, okay? This is the Jewish understanding of clocking out. So if you've ever had a job, or if you have a job where you like do a time card and you're like, I am done. You can no longer tell me to do anything. I am done. I am clocked out. I am out of your control. Like, I am not doing any more work. I'm clocking out. It's that whole mindset, right? You are kind of like washing your hands of being busy and you're saying, I am done. I'm going to stop working. And so that is what Shabbat is. The second word is nuach, okay? And there is a little bit of phlegm at the end of that. So, but nuach is this idea of settling in. Okay, it's settling in. So picture yourself with a friend, like kind of like huddling up near a bonfire, right? Like you're like, we're just gonna get a little bit closer. We're just kind of locking into the solemnity of the moment, the peacefulness of this. We're gonna listen to the fire crackle. We're gonna enjoy each other, right? Or maybe it's even like, I'm going to grandma's for the weekend, and on a Friday night, you're kind of unpacking your suitcase or your overnight bag. It's like, I'm gonna be here for a while. This isn't a quick visit. This isn't like, what time is it? I gotta get out of here. Like, I'm settling in to be here in the moment. Okay, and so this idea of Sabbath is both of these things combined. Okay, it's both of these things combined. It's not just stopping. It's not even just let's have some meaningful time together. It's let's stop and have some meaningful time together. How can we marry these things together? Now, Sabbath was instituted all the way back at the very beginning. Genesis chapter 2, right? God had just created the heavens and the earth and the animals and the fish and the birds and the people and all the things, right? 6 days, everything is created. And then by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all of his work. And then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. This is fascinating. You'll see both concepts here. God finished the work he had done. He didn't create extra things on the seventh day. He didn't say, oh yeah, eventually thousands of years from now, they're gonna want that internet thing, so I'm gonna put those particles in the air that make that possible on the seventh day. Like, that was not the seventh day. The seventh day, he finished and stopped his work, right? Like, he didn't do a little bit of extra. He didn't do a little bit of tweak. He's like, what about birthmarks? People will love those. And like, he didn't do extra things on the seventh day. He stopped. But then, like, the verse could have been done there. He finished his work. No. And then he blessed that day, and he made it holy, special, set apart for something different. Right? That day is meant to be something other, not just a repeat of the 6 days prior, not just the same mentality we've been doing as we work all week, but something unique is supposed to take place on this day. God, from the very beginning, made it holy, again, special and set apart. And so as I was trying to think through what is the mentality then of the Sabbath, even when we see it again in the 10 Commandments, right? He's trying to throw this thing out there, like, we should do this. I wonder, just think with me, dream with me for a moment. What if we had time every week that we would purposefully slow down? Let's set aside all the stuff that is stressing us out, that's making us anxious, that we're worried about. Let's settle in with God. Let's settle in with those that are closest to us. Let's actually recharge and reconnect. Then we'll do it again next week. Like, what if God was trying to help us, but then things started to get twisted? And we started to mess it up because we initially, I think as human beings, we saw the value in it, and then we like started to say, well, now it's a rule. Well, now you have to do this. And we shifted from, well, what if, to you better. And we shifted from, wouldn't this be awesome, to you're messing up if you're not doing anything like this. And we brought an intensity and a fire to it. And what was supposed to be God loving us and his faithfulness to us and trying to help us live life to the fullest became something that we were scolded for. Imagine being tired and then being scolded for it. How dare you be sleepy right now? I can't believe you're even thinking about taking a nap after a long week. You've been wired all night? You can't sleep? Well, you're messing up. It's like we don't talk that way to each other when it comes to sleep, because we all understand there's actually nothing there to scold. We're not like, I'm ridiculously sensitive to caffeine. Like, if I have a cup of iced tea, like after 8 p.m., I'm wired to like 4 a.m. Like, I can't have much caffeine. I just get my motor running. Like, I did it a couple of nights ago, and I was laying in bed. Actually, it was one of those bubblies, like, kind of like a LaCroix. Those drinks that have a hint of flavor, where it's like, what flavor is that LaCroix? It's like, I passed by a lime truck. That's what flavor this is. Like, there's no actual flavor. Well, I had one of those because, it's healthy. And so I had one of those, and I didn't realize it had caffeine in it. And it was like 9:30 at night, And then, like, I actually fell asleep fine. Then all of a sudden at 2 o'clock, I was like, well, here we go. And, like, I happened to look at my watch, and I'm like, my pulse is like 80 at 2 a.m. after sleeping. Fantastic. I'm just like, oh, wow, and I could do this, and I could do this. I'm just like going, right? Like I'm wired with caffeine. Now imagine someone scolding me for that. I can't believe that you let caffeine bother you and you didn't get the rest that you need. I mean, it'd be ridiculous. What do we do when we discover someone can't rest or sleep well? We try to help them. Have you tried fuzzy socks? Like, man, you pull that fuzzy goodness right over your feet and all of a sudden you're just encapsulated in a little bag of warmness on each little tootsie and you're like ready to go. You know, or these sheets are the sheets. Like, you gotta have these sheets, because if you don't have these sheets, you don't know what you're doing with sheets. You gotta have the sheets, and it's all about thread count, right? It's all about thread count. You have a 200 thread count, we gotta up that bad boy, right? Like, we gotta have the sheets, because if you don't have the sheets, how could you sleep, right? Or like, have you tried essential oils? Because if you put a little bit of lavender and a little diffuser, like, oh my goodness, I'm like, are we switching religions? Like, I'm not really sure what's going on here right now, right? But we try to help each other, right? We try to offer solutions. Oh, if you're not resting, I've been there, or I can rest well. Let me show you we try to help each other. We're in rhythms of not resting well. And God knows that too. He's not scolding us that we better observe the Sabbath. He's trying to say, I know you need rest. Let me show you something. I want to pause here for a minute, because if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in versions of that scolding mindset. Maybe it's not with the Sabbath, but maybe it's with something else that we've discovered or we've seen, or we've always done this thing that we feel like we should be doing for God, that we feel like helps us maybe even connect with God. And then when people don't do the thing or don't pursue God the way that we think they should be doing it, we do start nitpicking grain heads a little bit. We're like, well, you know, you should be reading your Bible. If you're not up at 4 a.m., if you're not doing this, if you're not at church every week, you know, if you're not reading that version of the Bible, you know, if you're not doing this, you know, if you're not listening to that podcast or even trying to follow Jesus, you know, if you don't do this, you know, I can't believe, and we'll slip right in to all of these strong opinions, maybe even way back when it was out of the best motives. And then suddenly we're scolding other people for not doing things the way that we do them. Music, for instance, is always a good example. Like one of my favorite things about Pastor Jeff, our offices have a wall between them, and don't let that fool you. It's thin. And so when he turns on his music to like dial in, you know, and get ready to preach and stuff like that, like I get a little bit of Southern gospel concert, you know, right there in my office. It's fantastic. And he would playfully tell you, that's like the Lord's music. Like, it just helps him settle in. And others of you, you're like, I need some classical, slow down focus if I want to focus and pray. Some of you are like, I need some like upbeat worship. Some of you are like, let's mellow that sucker down. A little bit of acoustic guitar is all I need. And then if we're not careful, we can start to share those opinions in a way that like, how dare you have these opinions about that kind of music? These are the only way. Like, all I'm saying is, it might be easier than we think to slip into that mindset of, I'm starting to nitpick how other people are trying to follow Jesus. And I want to make sure that we're like slowing that train down, because God is not arbitrarily setting up boundaries in our life so that we have to stay within them. God is showing us where the edge of the cliff is. He's like, hey, let's slow down. Let's rest, because if you don't, a lot of these things that you say you value, that we say are important to us, we're gonna miss the train. We're gonna miss the boat, and these things are not gonna happen the way that you think they are. And boy, I started to really wrestle with that this week. I'm like, well, where do I find myself in that conversation? Because if Jesus is right in saying that the Sabbath is to meet the needs of people, if the Sabbath is something that I would benefit from, well, how do I envision navigating it? Because if I'm being totally honest, I'm not super awesome at Sabbath. So this is not me saying like, I have figured it out and you need to get, you know, on your saddle and figure out how to do Sabbath too. My invitation is, will you join me in rediscovering what it means to Sabbath, and specifically to Shabbat and to Nuach, to stop and settle in, to figure out how can I actually cease the things that are wiring me, that are keeping me so busy, and just go, 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 but also to like stop and connect with God, connect with the people in my life that I miss so much. And so I broke it down into two different ways. I'm just asking myself, I wonder if you'll ask yourself, why do we fight against Shabbat? Why do we fight against stopping? We're busy. We could probably do an example of this in the lobby or online after the service. And I could ask you, how you doing? And if we talked for about 30 seconds, almost to the person, we're gonna say, blah, 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 and I'm really busy. I have so much going on. I'm stressed out right now. I'm overwhelmed. Things at work are crazy right now. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are all so busy. And even if you're one of the few, you're like, I actually don't feel that busy right now, you still know what I'm talking about because you talk to other people. We're so busy. And like even right now, like I'm so wired to do this myself, right? I am so prone to this. Like I was just thinking about that today. I'm like coaching game day, kindergarten and first grade girls. Woo, okay? Like I am not called to that age group, okay? Like that is not my thing. Shout out Running Mermaids though, because they're my peeps. Like I'm having fun with it and whatever, but it is a thing, right? To show up and practice and show up at the game and to work with the kids and do all this, and it adds to the busyness. And we all got those things, right? And lots of the things that we're doing are worth it, and they're good, and I might even encourage you, you should do those things, but we don't stop. We often don't know where to say no. We don't know where the limits are, where the boundaries should be. And to the extent that we're like Sabbath, we'll subconsciously say that must be an Old Testament thing because there's no way that I could fully stop all the stuff I got going on. My to-do list is literally like 587 things long. At this point, it's not a to-do list. It's a catch-all for ideas that I think I might be able to get to one day. Ha, 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 yeah, right. Like that's what my to-do list actually is. And every day that goes by, not only do I have 587 things to do, but if I don't get them all done, the stress of not getting them done weighs on me. And so it's this constant back and forth of I'm so busy and I got all this stuff going on and I'm trying to juggle it all. And even if I try to stop for a moment, I'm like, well, I got to think through and plan through and work all this stuff out because if I don't get any of that done, I'm a failure and all these kind of things that might flood through our brain and we're just busy. Why do we fight it? What is it about knowing that we're so busy and yet we still fight against something like Shabbat? Why do we do that? So I'm wrestling with that. But then there's the other side of it. Why do we fight against Nuach? Why do we fight against settling in and connection and being with God or being with people? Some of us, we like just shy of worship the stopping kind of rest. We like live for the weekend. We're like Friday, I'm out. Like Friday's like the best day because I know it's gonna end and then I have the weekend in front of me and we're always looking at how can I slow down and I'm gonna binge watch that show and I got that thing coming up and I'm just gonna relax. And I'm gonna play video games for 5 hours, or maybe that's not even enough time, and I gotta catch up on this, and I got Boba Fett, because I gotta watch Boba Fett, and I gotta catch up on this, and I got so much to do, and we're like, how can I check out? We're actually not half bad at Shabbat. We're like ready to stop, but why do we fight against the things that are gonna help us connect? Why is it that I'm prone to want to detach when I want rest? I have this thing every once in a while where I'll get some time. I'll pick my daughter up from school and it's my day off too. And so like I'll get home and I'm like, everything in me is like, go play a game and leave me alone. Now here's the irony. I don't know that there's another person on this planet that I'd rather spend time with. So what is that? What is that inside of us that says, I want to pull away from the people I love? I don't think it's the Lord. I think it's some version of fighting against nuwak, avoidance of connection. Because ironically, we'll do all of these things and we'll miss the connection. Many of you are familiar with that phrase that we buy the things that we don't have money for to impress the people that we don't like. And I would probably add, all while ignoring the people that we say we're doing it for. Honey, I'm gonna be in the garage tinkering on this thing because it'll be good for us. I'm gonna clean the garage. I mean, it might need done. I need to clean my garage. But like, what is it about, you guys stay there. I'll be over here. What is that? And I'm not saying we never need time in solitude. I'm not even saying that, but what is it about the Saturday night, the Sunday morning, and going, well, I could just spend the time going to the golf course. I could just spend the time finally catching up on that Netflix series. I could just, because I need rest. And I need me time. And we avoid the connection. Isn't it true, I think for all of us, that we wish we were closer to the people that we love? I mean, I can't think of a person that I know personally that I wish I spent less time with. I mean, I'm like looking around at like the faces in this room, and like some of us know each other pretty well. And I would love to hang out more. I mean, I want to be with people. I wish I could spend more time with my dad. I wish I could spend more time with my brothers, my sister. I wish I could spend more time with my in-laws, believe it or not. I wish I could spend more time with old friends from school. I wish I could be the person that walks up the road and visits a neighbor more often. I wish I could spend more time with my best friends. I wish I could spend more time with God. I wish I could spend more meaningful time with him. I wish. And yet, when it comes to rest, I tend to fight against nuwak, and I isolate myself from all the people that I love. Or even when sometimes I connect with them, I still do things that aren't connection. They're just fluff. And then we don't have that depth. When do we settle in? When do we connect? When do we get to know each other more? And it can be over the fun things. It can be go-karting. It can be a round of golf. It can be video games, but connect. It could be binge watching TV. I'm re-watching the show The Chosen right now, and I just feel my heart get pulled closer into the Lord. And I'm watching TV. It doesn't necessarily matter what the activity is, but are we connecting? Are we settling in? Is nuwak a part of our rest? Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching the show This Is Us. You guys know how hard it can be to find a show that you actually want to watch with a friend or a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend. This isn't it, but it is a show that my wife and I will watch together. And a couple of weeks ago, it just hit me dead in the eyes. Wasn't expecting it. That show's always trying to be emotional anyway. And there's probably a whole lot of sermons and teachings that we could do based off of that show. But this moment, if you don't know, about 11 months ago now, my mother passed away. And I was watching this show, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I don't have a mom anymore. And that is complicated in a lot of ways, but just that overarching umbrella, emotion, thought, reality, like just hit me like a wave that like, if there was any reconciliation that needed to happen, well, she's not here right now to do that with. If I wanted to text her, if I wanted to call her up, if I wanted to see if today was going to be a good day, I don't have that option. I find myself certainly not wishing that I had less time with her. I like long for better connection, for more. That maybe we could rebuild some of the things. I think you guys get it. We're so busy. And I don't think we're going to get to the end of our life wishing we were more disconnected from people. I don't think we're going to show up in heaven telling God, I'm really glad we've been distant. We want the connection. So what is it inside of us that continues to fight against it? I think the Sabbath is this reminder, this encouragement that we should stop and that we should settle in, because what if every week we could slow down and put the stuff that stresses us to the side? It'll be there tomorrow. And settle in with the God who loves us, that we wish we were closer to, and settle in with the people that we love and that we wish we were closer to. And what if we just did that, give or take once a week? What if God was inviting us to something that was special? You know, and as I got to thinking about that, and I started to realize I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of the things that might be heavy on our heart are for. I don't know about you, but I don't go to church regularly because I'm supposed to. I don't go to church regularly because it's some kind of rule. From my vantage point, I don't even go to church regularly because I'm a pastor. I go to church regularly because I need the focus. I need the moments to slow down and put my eyes on what counts, and to reflect on lyrics and sing my heart out and pray and be reminded of what is great and good and life-giving and awesome in the life of Christ. And I need people that will high-five and fist bump and hug and share and laugh and cry when I'm trying to figure out how to follow Jesus. I need it. So when I hear things like go to church regularly, I'm not like, how dare you establish another rule for me? I'm like, thank you for the reminder. I'm not a part of my life group because I'm supposed to be in a group. I'm in my life group because I don't know what I would do if I couldn't hash out all the junk that flies through my mind on a weekly basis, and that I could process what's happening in this ridiculously chaotic world with people that know me, that love me, that I know and I love, and that we can actually figure out how to take one step at a time in life. I'm not going to group because I have to. I'm going to group because I need it. I'm not reading the Bible because, you know, healthy disciplines say you should be in the Bible every day. I'm reading the Bible because the more that I allow myself to soak in the heart of God, the more it presses out all of the junk that every other voice in our culture is consistently trying to fill in my head, and it gives me some clarity that I can trust God and His faithfulness. It's not, you better read. It's, oh my gosh, man, I need the refreshment of God's heartbeat in His Word. You see, Jesus doesn't build walls between us and God. He creates pathways to Him. Jesus isn't trying to give you more rules He's not trying to make sure that you have more hoops to jump through. He's not trying to make sure that your religion is right. He's trying to say, how about I do everything I can, by the way, even die for you, so that you can have a pathway to connect with God, to stop and settle in and begin to feel the warmth and the life that is available when he's at the top. Some of us, we might be having a hard time still with this God thing. And we've been wondering all along. We hear messages or we hear people talk about, and I had this question about this verse I heard about one time, and we're still not sure if Jesus is for us. Jesus is inviting us to a fulfilled life, to a place where our soul can finally be put at ease, no matter the ups or the downs that we're walking through, that we can rest in him and find a place where people can help begin to meet the needs that are at the depth of our hearts. This is the gospel, that we find ourselves in need and that Jesus would reach out his hand and say, come to me. And he begins to take away the sin and the effort and the hustle and bustle of life that is just exhausting. And he says, I can expel that darkness. I will forgive your sin. You don't need to worry. You don't need to stress anymore. Come and trust and lean into me. Let me stop the madness that's going on in here and show you that you can rest and trust in me. Later on in his ministry, Jesus says exactly that. He says, come to me. You're weary, you're burdened, you're stressed, life is overwhelming. Come to me, and I will give you rest. You take my yoke upon you, you learn from me. I'm gentle, I'm humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. Let's jump on to that pathway that Jesus is creating. Let's find ourselves willing to step out and say, I need the rest. And not just detachment rest, but connected rest, where I would rediscover the heart of my Father, my Savior. And if you've been following Jesus, some of us, as I've had certain conversations, I hear things like, well, when I gave my life to Christ, and I don't understand why I don't always experience the peace that he has. But we miss the invitations and we miss the pathways. I don't want to pretend anymore that like somehow I don't need to reconnect and recharge with Jesus just because I've already given my life to him. I don't want to pretend anymore like I'm immune to needing rest. I'm not the hero of the story, Jesus is. And so, can we admit to each other that like we're allowed to stop? Can we admit to each other that we need to connect? And can we allow ourselves to start putting those rhythms into our life so that we can experience the slow but sure flood of his grace and mercy and peace as it starts to show up in our life? Guys, I want to make the Sabbath a real part of my rhythms. I want to discover and rediscover and rediscover and rediscover what it's like to unpack my suitcase and settle in by the fire with Jesus and those that I love the most. Maybe this is a moment where we can do a little bit of that right now. The band's going to come out, they'll adjust some things on stage, but what they're doing right now is they're getting the bonfire ready. They're letting us unpack the suitcase for a second. And they're going to create a pathway for us to respond in prayer or singing or silence or something, but to look to our God and say something to the effect of, Jesus, I think I get it. I want more of you, and show me what it means to stop and connect. Will you pray with me? Father God, I needed this wake-up call. I needed you to slow me down and remind me of what it means to be connected to you. And Father, I'm probably going to need it about 52 times a year, because it's easy to get busy, and it's easy to be in the hustle and bustle, and it's easy to forget that the slowing down and the connecting with you is kind of what we're on this earth to do in the first place. And so help us, whether we've never done that before, help us have the boldness to reach out and say, how do I start doing this? And if we've done it before, help us to have the humility to go right back to it. But Father, I know that your hands are open. I know that you're welcoming us home, and that the rest, the true, connected, recharged rest is available. Lead us to you. Help us to connect with you, Father, and it's your name we pray. Amen.
There's a simplicity, humility to the way you love me, and honesty, a purity. Can't you make it easy? No special words or formulas could ever win you over, for your love is undeserved. And even when I can't see clearly, somehow we still make it easy. Your love's uncomplicated. You love me just the way I am. So I'll stand before you. I'm totally surrendered, with open hands and open heart.
You guys all pray with me. Jesus. Jesus, thank you for your love. God, and not love that's just a feeling, love that's an action. Love that would cause you to leave your throne in heaven and come down to earth to get a hold of us. Jesus, I thank you for the ways that you've put things aside. You moved your life around. Everything was going perfectly fine for you. But you put that all aside and you came into our lives and into our world, our broken world, because you love us. You want to be close to us. Jesus, I just pray in your name that your love would fill our hearts so much. God, that we would love others in the same way. Jesus, would you let us be present with people? Would you let us put aside, quote unquote, me time and realize that there is no such thing as me time. There's the time that you've given us. Would you let us love our families? Would you let us love our friends? Would you let us be present with them? And God, get to the heart that you've been showing us really since the beginning of human history. And God, I know there are people in this room, because I am one of them, who are running and going so fast and doing so much. And I can speak from personal experience that the running and the going and the moving, the feeling behind that is, if I don't get all this done, if I don't get through this list, if I don't work super hard, then life is going to fall apart. And Jesus, would you show me, would you show my brothers and sisters in this room, God, that you are in control. God, you have already overcome. And yes, those things are important. And yes, there's going to be a time for them for sure. But God, we don't have to go to make the world spin. The world's been spinning because of you. Would you let us trust you? Would you let us trust that every little thing is going to be fine? Would you let us rest? God, teach us rest. Teach us rest. Because you're in control and you love us and you're not going to let us go. Would you let our souls rest in you? In your name, Lord. Amen.
Don't say what's next. I'm so afraid of how this will end. Hollow, down high. I call to you and you hear my cry when I don't know where to turn to. Oh my God, I know I can trust you. You're my fortress when I need shelter. You're my refuge when all's at war. You protect me and you sustain me. Oh, my soul finds rest in you. Cold feet, step out. Jesus, I'm praying you'll hold me now. Your words, my life. I'll cling to you in the darkest night. I'll trust your every direction as I rest in eternal protection. You're my fortress when I need shelter. You're my refuge when
control of all things, which means we can trust and we can know that everything's gonna be alright. Let's sing. Your faithful ways within the future. My dreams are small compared to yours. Yes, they are. I shouldn't worry about tomorrow when I know that all I gotta do is trust you, Lord. Hey, let's sing. 'Cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Every little thing's gonna be just fine. Hey. Whether I can see it now, I know you will work it out for good. 'Cause every little thing, everything will be alright. Behind the scenes and in the details, you planned the perfect way for me. Listen to this right here. But would it dwell upon the roads of sunset seas when all I gotta do is look to you? That's all you gotta do. Yeah, all I gotta do is look to you. Hey. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Every little thing's gonna be just fine. It's the truth. Whether I can see it now, I know you will work it out for good. Every little thing, everything will be alright. Every little thing. Hey, the birds in the air, God takes care of them. The flowers on the field, God takes care of them. I promise He's gonna take care of you. So let's sing, come on. 'Cause whether I can see it now, I know you will work it out for good. 'Cause every little thing, everything will be alright. Whether I can see it now, I know you will work it out for good. 'Cause every little thing, alright. Hey everybody, it's so good to be with you all. We love you all. Hey, if you need anything at all, you need somebody to talk to, talk about your relationship with God, life, hey, we want to talk to you. We're going to be hanging out right here for the rest of y'all. Peace.